So good morning everyone, I am Rosal Gallarde from Bitalad IA 1B. So now let's talk about the theory of Sigmund Freud, which is the psychoanalytic. So why we called it psychoanalytic? So psycho means mind and analytic means analysis. So in short, analysis of mind. Sigmund Freud ang tinaguriang father of psychoanalysis because he is the first person to explain human behavior using the concepts of mind. So according to Sigmund Freud, how we think and what we think influences our behavior. So what is the goal of psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud? So, the goal of psychoanalytic theory is to explain the unconscious mind. So, conscious and unconscious mind. So, when we say conscious, you are aware the things that you are doing. So, awareness. Those things which can be controlled, it is called conscious mind. You are in your conscious mind. So, and in unconscious mind, those things that cannot be controlled, the things that you are doing but you don't know, so you cannot control. So that we call it unconscious mind. So unconscious. So in this part, the id, ego, and superego will entry. So question. Are the id, ego, and superego, can we make it in any order? No. Why? Because it is ordered based on when it develops. So, question. Do you have already ego and superego during your birth? No. Because ego, it develops from id. And the superego, it develops from ego. So meaning the id, ego, and superego is intentionally arranged by Sigmund Freud to remind us that the very first develop in the child is the id, then ego, and finally the superego. So first, let's talk about id. So when we say id, that is considered the most primitive. It is primitive because it is the very first that develop in a child because it is already present at birth. So meaning, starting from your birth, you already have id. In the aspects of mind is the id. When we say id, it is unconscious mind. So, conscious and unconscious mind. When we say conscious, we are aware of ourselves. Unconscious, we are not aware. We are not in control. So, the baby cannot control themselves. So, question, if the baby cannot control themselves, so who is in control? The answer is the id. Why? The id is the one in control. That's why id is important mostly to the baby, especially in the purpose of survival. Id is work on a pleasure principles. When we say pleasure principles, immediate gratification. What the child's want, you should do. What the child's what are the things that make the child happy, you should give him. So their want and desires, it is called pleasure principles. So the example of pleasure principles in id, so if the baby is hungry, it will only cry. So if the baby is not comfortable, it will only cry. If the baby wants to sleep, it will only cry. So who is in control? The id. So but while the child is growing, she's now exposed in the environment. So she's now socializing with different peoples. So here develop the consciousness of the child. So the ego also here is already developed. When we say ego, it means self-awareness. Awareness of yourself. It means you are already conscious, so you are now in control. In ego, you are in control. In the id, you are not in control. That's why we called it unconscious, because you are not in control. So in ego, now here you have awareness of yourself, so you are now in control. So the difference of id and ego: in id, unconscious, while in ego is conscious. In id, you are not in control, but in ego, you are now in control. So now ego works on reality principles. Real world ego developed during preschool. But if the child is in school stage, now the child will develop the super ego. In school learning, the teachers are teaching ethics and morality, do's and don'ts, right and wrong. So, question: why we call this super ego? So, ego means self. Super ego means super self. So, meaning super ego is the higher than ego. So, it is called super self because, in short, ideal self. This is mean the perfectionist part of yourself. So this works based on morality principles. Id is work based on pleasure. Ego works based on reality. Superego works based on morality. Superego means the things that should be done. What should be done based on morality. Superego says it has a pleasure, and ego works based on reality. But is that right? Is that based on morality principles? Based on moral standard? If it is based on morality, let's do it. But if it's not, we will not do it. So, in three principles, superego is the last of who developed. The superego developed based on wisdom, learning, experiences. So, the keywords here is the conscience, ethic, morality, societal rules, societal standards. So, now let's summarize it. So, id is present during child's birth. So, during your birth, the id is already there. So, meaning, id is unconscious. So, meaning, the baby cannot control themselves, so the id is in control. So, that's mean unconscious. While in the ego, it works based on reality. So now let's move on to superego. So superego means super self, or the ideal self, or the perfectionist part of yourself. So during school days, the child will learn that in school, because the teachers are teaching about morality, conscience, ethics, societal rules. So the goal of the superego is to make the persons realize if it's good or bad. So if it's good, then we will do it. So if it's not, so we will not do it. So that is the role of the superego. Means the inner or the spiritual self of a human being. So that's all. Thank you for listening, and God bless. So
let me discuss to you about the theory of Jean Piaget, cognitive development theory. So, Jean Piaget, 1896 to 1980, was a Swiss psychologist. He believes children are active learners who construct knowledge by interacting with their environment, not just passive receiver of information. So, Jean Piaget is an psychologist, which is the explain he explained about that children actively construct knowledge as they grow, moving through 4 stages, which is the sensory motors, learning through senses, 0 to 2 years old, pre-operational using symbols but still egocentric, 2 to 7 years old, and concrete operational, 7 to 11 years old, logical thinking about real object. So the last one is the formal operational. So abstract to 12 years old above. So abstract and hypothetical thinking. So his theory show that teaching should match a children's developmental stages using hands-on discovery-based learning. So cognitive means the study of how children thinking, reasoning, understanding, grow and change as they mature. So PJ theory showed that the student think and learn differently as each stage of development. So as a teacher, understanding these stages help you relate your student better because you can one is use age appropriate teaching methods and that match their way of thinking. So 2 is show patient when they struggle, knowing their ability depends on their cognitive stage. And 3, build trust by supporting their learning through discovery, hands-on activities, and guidance instead of forcing information. And the last one is strengthen relationship by respecting their developmental needs and helping them feel success. In short, by applying Piaget cognitive development theory, teacher can connect with student more effectively because understand how students think and learn different ages, which build trust and positive learn.
Good day, Coach Jude. So my name is Aniros Gregorio Soto from BTLED IA1B. So my theory is the theory of Lev Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky, sociocultural influences. So Lev Vygotsky is a psychologist, and he believed that children's sociocultural environment plays an important role in how they develop cognitively. So when we say cognitively, it focuses on brain, the knowledge, or the thinking by thinking. In Vygotsky's view, the acquisition of language is a crucial part of cognitive development. So after children acquire language, they don't just go through a set series of stages. Rather, in their cognitive development depends on interactions with adults, cultural norms, and their environmental circumstances. So, in addition, based on my research, Lev Vygotsky, 1896 to 1934. So he believed that culture provides tools of intellectual adaptation. So these are tools both technical, like computers or rulers, and psychological, like language, signs, symbols, and strategies that allow individuals to navigate and understand their world. Children learn to use these tools through their interactions with more knowledgeable members or more knowledgeable people that surrounds them. The specific tools a culture provides shape how individuals think and learn. His sociocultural theory shifted the focus of developmental psychology from the individual to the collaborative and cultural context. Cultural context of learning rather. His work emphasizes that learning is not an isolated activity but a deeply social one, driven by interaction, language, and the guidance of others. The concepts of the MKO and the ZPD have had a profound impact on educational practices, highlighting the importance of scaffolding and guided learning to help students reach their full potential.
Hi everyone, so today we're exploring about Erik Erikson theory about how our personality develops through life. Who was Erik Erikson? So Erik Erikson was a psychologist who believed that our development happens in stages from infancy to old age. At each stage we face a challenge or crisis that help us grow. Erik Erikson theory is psychosocial theory. So Erikson theory includes 8 stages of personality development. At each stage, a person faces a certain conflict and as a result, develops a particular quality or skill. Erikson divided life into 8 stages. Each stage has a specific task or crisis we need to deal with. Successfully navigating these stages help us develop important virtues. Stage 1. Trust versus mean trust. Infant to 18 months. In the first stage, from infancy to 18 months, babies learn to trust. If they are cared for, they develop hope. In this stage, the application is to nurture and care for the child during infancy. So let's move into stage 2, autonomy versus shame or doubt, 18 months to 3 years old. As a toddlers, 18 months to 3 years old, kids want to do things themselves. If they succeed, they gain will. In these stages, the application is to guide the child gradually and firmly during childhood. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. From 3 to 5 years, preschoolers starting taking initiative. If supportive, they will develop a sense of purpose. In these stages, the application is to support the child initiative and help him achieve goals. So let's move into stage 4, industry versus inferiority. During school age, 5 to 13 years, children learn new skills. Success leads to competency. In these stages, the application is to help the child try new things. Stage 5, identity versus role confusion. In adolescent, teenagers explore their identity. Finding themselves leads to fidelity. In this stage, the application is to help the child discover his identity. So let's move into stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. As a young adults, people seek close relationship. Finding intimacy leads to love. In this stage, the application is to connect with others physically and emotionally. So let's move into stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. During middle adulthood, people contribute to society. This leads to sense of care. In this stage, the application is to contribute to your family. So finally, the last one, stage 8, integrity versus despair. In old age, 65 plus, people reflect on their lives. A sense of fulfillment leads to wisdom. In this stage, the application is to accept success and failures. So, in conclusion, Erik Erikson theory provides a valuable framework for understanding human development across the lifespan.
Hello everyone! Today in this video I will talk about Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development. Kohlberg devised a theory of moral development which postulates that moral reasoning passes through 6 stages, from early childhood to adulthood. His stages are sorted into 3 levels: the pre-conventional morality, conventional morality, and post-conventional morality. Each level includes 2 stages of reasoning. These stages are universal and we are used to understand how people develop their sense of right and wrong. Let's go through each level and stage. Level 1, Pre-conventional level. This level usually occurs from ages 3 to 7 years old. Stage 1, Avoiding punishment. Young children follow rules to avoid punishment. At this stage, it is important to set clear guidance for behavior and consequences for misbehavior. A consistent punishment system helps children learn what is acceptable. Stage 2, Aiming a reward. Children at this stage behave well to get a reward. Classroom activities that requires cooperation between students help build moral reasoning. Letting students work together encourages them to understand activities that requires cooperation. Stage 2, Aiming a reward. Children at this stage behave well to get a reward. Classroom activities that requires cooperation between students help build moral reasoning. Letting students work together encourages them to understand fairness and team. Level 2, Conventional level. This occurs from ages 8 to 13 years old. Stage 3, Good boy and good girl attitude. Children want to be seen as good by others. Teachers can strengthen moral character by involving students in making classroom rules. This helps them feel responsible and understood the importance of fairness. Stage 4, Loyalty to law and order. Students follow rules because they believe rules maintain order. By middle school or early high school, students may reach these stages. Group projects and social activities help students see how their action affects others. Level 3, Post-conventional level. This level typically occurs in adulthood. Stage 5, Justice and spirit of the law. Students understand that rules can be changed for the greater good. Teachers should continue using group activities that help students work towards a common goal and build strong moral values. And lastly, Stage 6, Universal Principles of Ethics. Students at this stage are guided by universal moral principle. Group work and discussions help students to explore how their actions affect others in a wider social context. And so, in conclusion, Lawrence Kohlberg theory helps us understand how children and adults grow in moral thinking. As teachers or educators, We can support moral development by designing classroom activities that matches the student's moral stage. This way, we can help shape responsible and ethical individuals.
Urie Bronfenbrenner was an American psychologist who emphasized the importance of environmental context in a development. He proposed a theory that viewed development as a complex interplay of multiple systems. Ecological systems state that human development is influenced by 5 interconnected environmental systems. These systems are the microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and lastly the chronosystem. Microsystem is the most immediate environmental and individual directly expenses. This includes family, friends, classmates, teachers, and neighbors. The mesosystem, the connections between different microsystems. For example, a parent's relationships with their child's teacher is a part of the mesosystem. Exosystem is environmental system that an individual does not have direct contact with, but that still influence them. An example is a parent's workplace, which can affect the family through their stress or job security. Macrosystem, the large cultural context including values, social norms, laws, and economy. A child's cultural background or socioeconomic status are part of his system. And lastly, the chronosystem. Chronosystem is the dimension of the time and how it affects development. This includes major life transition like divorce or moving, as well as historical events. So Bronfenbrenner theory highlight the interconnectedness of various environmental systems in shaping development. He emphasized that developmental is not solely determined by individual factors but is influenced by multiple layers of context.